Hi, friend. It's your inner child calling. And they want churros. A new toy. And a new adventure. Or maybe 5. With the bestest besties on Earth. Find your moment at Walt Disney World Resort.
You know you've got a comeback in you. When you take the next step, you're going to make it count. For your career, for your family, for your life. You can earn a degree you're proud of with Purdue Global. Purdue Global is backed by Purdue University, one of the nation's most respected and innovative public universities. This is your chance. This is your opportunity. This is your comeback. Purdue Global, Purdue's online university for working adults. Start your comeback today at purdueglobal.edu.
Hello, I'm Taylor Williamson, a senior producer at Wonder Media Network, and I'm so excited to be guest hosting this week's episodes of Womanica. This Black History Month, we're talking about Renaissance women. As part of the famed cultural and artistic Harlem Renaissance movement, these women found beauty in an often ugly world. Today, we're talking about one of the most widely published female playwrights of the Harlem Renaissance. Though she was based in Washington, D.C. during the era, she still managed to attract acclaim from her contemporaries in the movement for her plays and poems. Please welcome May Miller. May was born on January 26, 1899 in Washington, D.C. Her father worked at Howard University as a sociologist and eventually became the dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. May and her 4 siblings grew up on the college's campus. Later, she recalled the many prominent Black intellectuals that passed through their home over the years, including W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, and Langston Hughes. May's father strongly encouraged a love of poetry in his young children. May later recalled, "He taught us poetry before we knew what we were saying." She sold her first poem at only 13 years old, 25 cents for a piece that appeared in School Progress magazine. As a high school student, she studied under renowned Black writers Mary P. Burrell and Angela Weld Grimke. She enrolled at Howard University when she was 16 years old and graduated in 1920, the height of the Harlem Renaissance. While the movement was, of course, centered in New York City and named for one of the country's most iconic Black neighborhoods, its influence spread far and wide. May did spend time in New York City as a graduate student at Columbia University, but for most of her life, she lived in Washington, D.C., a city that had become a hub for Black intellectuals and artists in its own right. It was from D.C. that May participated in the cultural movement. May first attracted praise as a prolific playwright. While still a student at Howard, she'd won a prize for her one-act play Within the Shadows. In the first half of the Roaring Twenties, May published several stage plays, including her 1925 work, The Bog Guide. It told the story of a daughter seeking to avenge her father's death while navigating racism and the complexity of biracial identity. The Bog Guide was awarded a prize by Opportunity magazine and helped solidify May's reputation as a talented and noteworthy writer. She went on to become the most widely published woman playwright of the Harlem Renaissance. Her plays often focused on the experiences Black Americans faced in the early 20th century, from colorism and class discrimination within the Black community to the trauma brought on by lynchings. She also dramatized the lives of several celebrated Black historical figures, including Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth. Aside from her published works, May earned a living as an English teacher. For 20 years, she commuted daily to her job at Frederick Douglass High School in Baltimore. She retired by the mid-1940s due to declining health. During this time, she also married Bud Sullivan, a school principal and retired jazz and blues musician. Once she had stopped teaching, May returned to her first love, poetry. Her first collection of poems, Into the Clearing, was published in 1959. She also published her work in journals and anthologies and often recited her poetry for live audiences in and around Washington, D.C., most notably at the inauguration of President Jimmy Carter. May's poems reflected her fondness for her city and its people, as well as her memories of childhood and the folk tales she loved as a young girl. But like her plays, May's poetry also explored the nuances of the Black experience in America. Her poem, Dark Instrument, published in her 1975 collection Dust of Uncertain Journey, highlighted the generational pain experienced by ancestors of enslaved Africans brought to America as part of the Atlantic slave trade. It begins,
"Hold me and hear me, America, For I am that instrument, sprung in Africa, tuned to this land. Beat out my music.
As a writer living through the civil rights movement, May was criticized, especially by younger generations, for her hesitation to address politics directly in her work or take a strong public stance. As she later argued, so many people who were violent in the Black movement didn't understand how I couldn't jump in head first. They didn't understand that I couldn't be violent. I always said, I don't believe in fists. Despite her resistance, May did eventually turn her pen to directly address the upheaval of the 1960s in her poem, Blazing Accusation. She wrote the piece in reaction to the infamous church bombing in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963, which killed 4 young Black girls. The poem concludes like this: "But walk they will, the 60-odd more years they're due. Beyond allotted time and self, the 4 of them will go down red gullies of guilt and alleys of dark memories, through snagging fields of scarecrows and up an unforgetting hill to blazon accusation of an age." May died in her home in Washington on February 8, 1995. She was 96 years old. During her lifetime, May's plays and poems never earned her the widespread celebrity that many of her contemporaries during the Harlem Renaissance enjoyed. But this never seemed to bother her much. As she once said, "You do what you have to do, and you get a certain amount of satisfaction from that." All month, we're talking about Renaissance women. For more information, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Womanica Podcast. Special thanks to Jenny and Liz Kaplan for having me as a guest host. Talk to you tomorrow.
Welcome to a day in the life of an Amex Gold Card member. 7 a.m., iced coffee with up to $84 back annually at Dunkin' locations. 12 o'clock, pesto zoodles with 4 times membership rewards points on purchases at U.S. restaurants up to $50,000.
This is so good.
And to finish strong, the freshest sushi spot with up to $100 back annually on eligible purchases at U.S. Resi restaurants. What a day. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply, cap applies. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex.
She's seen Encanto more times than she can count. And she can count to 10. She mentioned Mirabel in every conversation. But the moment she actually met Mirabel, she was speechless. That's pura magia. Find yours at Walt Disney World Resort.
5 years, 10 months, and 2 days. That's how long it took to grow the 38 inches to ride on Cali River Rapids. But the moment the wait finally ended, that was pura magia. Discover it at Walt Disney World Resort.